Good afternoon, everybody. It's Valerie here. I've just coming live to you. Just wanted to percolate some thoughts out loud. I had my morning with my clients who now predominantly are in the burnout space, whether they're a personal carer or they're a first responder. Hey Kim, I was so inspired to see that you've been out walking. I don't know how you feel about this, but whenever I go out, I always feel like I'm on my own. Like, who does this? Nobody else is doing this. So it's really nice to have you doing this. So today, just finished off my clinical load, about to live stream into a group that I have. And just being aware really of needing to decompress, make sure I tap into my intuitive cues, which is actually to feed myself. But I also wanted to be broadcasting some thoughts I'm having about our relationship with work. So while I'm talking to you, Kim, who's watching, and anybody else who hops on, I'm actually going to get my lunch out and respect my cues for the need to eat, but also talk to you. One of the things that comes across in the burnout space quite a lot as I'm doing it, and more, I'm actually thinking that one of the most helpful paradigms to think about this is in terms of a relationship with work, right? Is the thing of our identity being so invested. Oh my gosh, look at that. This is some soup that I made. It's actually got ice on it now. Whoa. Yes, the identity that we invest in ourselves, in our work. Yesterday, if you haven't already read my blog, I talked about obsessive love, about how our relationship with work can be very much like an obsession that we have with someone. I'm just going to pause here while I do the beep, beep, beeps on the microwave. I have no idea how long to put these things. I'm very bad with reading manuals and responding to rules. I just go with what I think is the right thing. Okay. And then I got thinking today about how another relationship dynamic, when we actually have an enmeshed relationship with someone, when you don't know where you start and where the other person finishes. And I thought about what tends to happen in the burnout space is how our sense of self gets really infused with the work that we do, and we can't actually tell what is work, what is personal, what is me. The sense that if things go wrong at my work, if if I'm not making the difference, if people aren't shifting, if people aren't changing, well then I'm not doing my job, and things like that. So our sense of self really gets warped into that, and it made me think about how this thinking of, if you're passionate about your work, then you're going to burn out. Now, to me, that's a really scary concept to accept. It's an theoretical concept, because essentially what happens is we look at a bunch of statistics, and statistics ain't foolproof. They don't tell you causation. There's errors and there's limitations in the way that statistics are collated, and then you build a theory around it, as opposed to having a solid theory and then looking to test that theory out. And I think it's a dangerous proposition to put out, that if you find meaning and passion in what you do, then you are actually more likely to burn out. I actually wonder whether it's got to do with our relationship dynamics. And one of those things is losing your sense of self because you're so invested in your work. So what does that look like? Losing your sense of self when you're so invested in your work means that if things go wrong at the office, you feel wrong. If someone says something discouraging or something critical in the workspace, or says something about your work that is critical or negative, that we actually take that on board for ourselves, and we infuse that we've failed somehow, or there's something wrong with us. And what else does it look like? It also looks like putting our own physical, mental, spiritual, emotional needs on the back seat to make sure that everybody else on the bus in our job or at our work, or the people that we're serving or helping, gets first dibs on our energy, or gets first dibs on our resources. It also probably filters into a space where your door is always open because work comes first. And if you don't attend to it, if you don't rescue the situation, or if you don't respond to it, oh, that's our toy of the month, by the way. Sorry, I got distracted because I haven't played with it yet. Oops, it's this 3-dimensional orb thing. No idea what I was saying. Anyways, so being able to recognize and asking yourself, I often say that a playful antidote to this, when you're enmeshed with your work, a playful antidote is to actually ask yourself, if I weren't doing this, what would I do? For a few reasons. One, if you're an entrepreneur or in a business, you have to actually accept that the first thing that you do, the second business that you do, the third business that you bring, probably will not be the only ones that you have, and that they may not actually stay afloat. There's no successful entrepreneur story actually where the first thing that they put their hand to was a success. The first thing that I put my hand to was not a success. Several things were not a success. Right? So there's a journey to that. And also, you want to actually dig deeper than just, this is the only form or the only expression of how I'm going to have a meaningful impact or a meaningful place in this world. What do I mean by that? Well, I can tell you, have I ever told you the story of somebody, I won't say whom I was really quite impressed with, and it stuck with me for a long time. A person who was retrenched from a corporate job who retrained as a baker. I thought, wow. Or the person who has redeployed their sense of community and wanting to be out in the public spaces with becoming an Uber driver, for example. So having these kind of playful backup thoughts as to, well, if I wasn't expressing my interest and my sense of purpose in this form, like for me, private practice owner of a psychology practice, how would I actually express it? I can tell you what mine is, but I won't say anything until maybe you give it a go. So I'm curious, what would you say if I were to say to you, if not this, what else would you be doing? Or how else would you express that? Would love to hear from you. All right, my lunch is almost about to ding, I think. It's time for me to go. Bye, Kim.